You're either a woman or a man. Only women have babies. And you said it best on your show. You may be crazy, but blah, blah, blah. Yes, you are crazy.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
We do have a voicemail number, and that number is, one more time, 844-899-8857, and we got a couple last week. So, Adam, let's go ahead and play the one that I've got queued up for us.
There are no such things as birthing persons. You're either a woman or a man. Only women have babies. And you said it best on your show. You may be crazy, but blah, blah, blah. Yes, you are crazy.
So, yeah, that... So, man, like, you can tell in his voice and, like, how long it took for him to actually kind of mentally prepare that this dude is seething, right? He is seething mad because somebody had the audacity not to even necessarily, like, we spent very little time actually questioning the substance of what was happening as far as the conversation about birthing people, but just the audacity of somebody to suggest that it's more important to women and to others that they not die because they don't have health care. Like, can you, like, so, I mean, just to recap, because not everybody listens to every single show, although you should, but just so that you've got a good idea of the backstory here, he called in crying about us taking issue with the fact that a couple of weeks ago, conservative propaganda losers spent hours, I'm talking literal hours, on the radio crying about the words that somebody used to describe folks who give birth in Alabama. Columns were written about it, hours spent on the radio, and we said our position was that this is distracting from, first of all, like, who cares? First of all, who cares who cares that somebody is using language that they feel will make people feel more comfortable. Like, it doesn't hurt you at all, you tiny, tiny little baby. You tiny, tiny little baby. This Fuhrer and people like this caller getting whipped into a rage when the original conversation, the person who used the offending phrase birthing Alabamian, she was reporting on and doing a good job, because we don't hear any of this context on conservative talk radio or in conservative media columns, reporting on the fact that postpartum Medicaid coverage will potentially be expanded in the state of Alabama. And she reported on some good facts, some facts about how people give birth in Alabama. 1 in every 2 births in the state is covered by Medicaid. That is how poor our people are. Is that 1 in every 2 births are covered by Medicaid instead of private health insurance.
Not to mention the teenage pregnancy rates we have in this state, because that constitutes a significant number of those Medicaid births as well.
1 in every 2 births is covered by Medicaid. The majority of postpartum deaths of folks who give birth that die after they give birth from childbirth, the majority of those deaths take place after like 3 or 4 weeks or something. So this is something that people need to be covered for a while to be out of the woods about, right? This is and so previously Medicaid in Alabama only gave postpartum postpartum coverage, after birth coverage for like a month or two. And now we are looking at, in the state of Alabama, getting on par with the rest of the country and extending postpartum Medicaid coverage for 1 year to create it, to make it so that it is a year. Call me I said this last week. Call me crazy, but I think even if I was a person who did not believe that trans people should be respected, which I am. I'm a person that believes trans people should be respected. But let's even say that's that I'm just this reactionary person and I have weird feelings about trans people. Even if that's me, it would seem to me that women dying, because this affects largely women, that women dying in the state of Alabama or getting substandard care in the state of Alabama is more important than the fact that the reporter who is reporting on this issue is trying to make trans people feel comfortable and included. It would, right?
You would think.
You would think. This guy, I would be willing to bet a significant amount of money. I'd be willing to bet a significant amount of money that this guy who called into our show and left us a voicemail, just seething mad, just absolutely he probably had to wipe tears from his eyes because he was so angry. I would be willing to bet a significant amount of money that he did not call his state representative or his state senator to express his support for extending postpartum Medicaid coverage to ensure that, again, largely women, the majority of the people that this is going to affect is going to be women, right? To make sure that those folks are adequately taken care of. I would be willing to bet he did not call his state representative or his state senator or the governor's office to make sure that his support for this important policy is heard. And that's really, really sad. That's really sad that that the people that he listens to on a regular basis, the people that he gets his opinions from, have so rotted his brain that using gendered words is more important to him than saving Alabamians' lives. I mean, that's just that's really sad. That makes me hurt for this guy. It makes me hurt for this guy, and it makes me angry at the people who made him this way. And, look, like I said, trans folks are real. Whether you agree with it or you appreciate that or not, trans people are real. They're real people. Trans rights are workers' rights, are humans' rights, and trying to make them feel comfortable and welcome and using gender-neutral language, that's not a bad thing. Sometimes I do that and sometimes I don't. Just whatever makes the most sense in a given situation. And even if that language sounds awkward to you, like we said last week, birthing person, sounds it just hits my ears wrong, right? It hits my ears wrong. It sounds weird. And so, I don't know, it's not really a phrase that I'm probably not going to use that. I might say, folks who give birth if I want to use it in a gender-neutral way or, but, look, there are trans men, female to male, who are going to have some female, needs, right? And so, but most of these people, they're not going to care about that you use a gender-neutral phrase every single time, right? This is not the thing that's at the top of their priority list, okay? But on the other hand, juxtaposing the fact that for trans people, making sure that every single person uses a gender-neutral phrase every single time, Like, that's not, not top of the list, okay? Not top of the list. On the other hand, this guy, and people, and the people that he listens to, that is on the top of their list. Making sure that this language is not used, making sure that people feel bad for using it, that is at the top of his list. That is at the top of his list. This guy has allowed himself to be pulled around because one reporter said birthing people. And he is not upset that women and potentially other folks are dying or are getting substandard care because of a lack of postpartum medical coverage.
Yeah, it is sad, and I think it's always difficult when we talk about these issues because, I think it's important we point out the ways in which media and the culture in general wants us to be upset about things, wants us to be divided over things, and typically the lower the stakes, the higher the outrage, and vice versa.
Right.
And so, if it's conservative media or even in some cases more mainstream corporate media, there's going to be more coverage given to language and gender-neutral terms and the pushback on that and the pushback on the pushback than there will be on homelessness plaguing the trans community or the amount of suicides plaguing the trans community because, in part, of the stigma attached and the ways in which these folks are demonized by media and others and politicians. So I want to be careful in saying that we're not trying to be dismissive of gender-neutral language. We both agree with that. I think one thing we can say is that language evolves. Mm-hmm. It always has. It always will. There are things that we won't say today that 20, 30, 40 years ago would have been commonplace.
Right.
And I think it's a process of learning. I'm not trans myself. I have friends who are. I've had students who are. And I am trying to learn. It's a process. And I think those of us who are engaged in good faith can recognize that not everyone's always going to like what we say or how we say it, but it's about what's in your heart. And are you coming from a good place, a place where all human beings deserve to be treated with dignity and respect?
Yeah. And
that's how we feel about it. And it is sad that there are folks who are so riled up about these things, and like you said, what is it to him? What's it matter to him what phrases are used?
Yeah.
It's really quite minor because it doesn't affect him whatsoever. Now, it does affect trans folks, and the language that's used can affect them in the ways in which they can be demonized or made to feel less than human, the ways in which they can be made to feel inclusive. Mm-hmm. So all those things are important to that community, and therefore we have some obligation to do our best to learn to act in good faith. But where it doesn't matter is to these folks on right-wing media and the kind of folks who listen to it who are upset about these things. It really affects their life not at all.
Yeah. I mean, I really want you to think, like, this is part of the reason why we wanted to be on one of the stations that we're on. We're on a few different stations, but one of the stations that we're on is a conservative talk radio station. Like, if you're listening to me and you're a conservative, like, I really want you to take a step back because, like, I've been a little bit inflammatory, and I do that because I think it's funny, but I really do want you to take a step back and think, like, is it more important that a reporter, like, doesn't use this phrase that hurts my feelings, or is it more important that folks in Alabama have postpartum Medicaid coverage. Like that people that after they give birth, they have adequate care for themselves, and then by proxy, you know, so that they're healthy and they're able to care for their children. Like, I want you to think about that. I want you to think about that, and I want you to think about what's more important, and I want you to think about, does your media reflect that? Do the people that you listen to on a day-to-day basis, do they reflect those priorities that you have? Because I would hazard a guess that most people, even if they are conservative, they see the basically objectively correct priority, which is that people dying is more important than addressing the fact that folks are dying because they don't have care after they give birth. Addressing that fact is more important than whether or not a reporter said birthing Alabamians. I believe most people agree with that, and so I just want you to think about what the people that you listen to are trying to get you upset about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and
that's the last thing that.
And the last thing I'll say is keep the feedback coming, the positive and the negative. Hey, if you want to leave us a voicemail and you're pissed off about something, go for it. If you want to send us a message and push back on some things we said, go for it.
Yeah, we love the feedback.
Yeah, I mean, it's how we learn, or in some cases, I can't say I learned an awful lot from this caller.
but we had fun.
It was fun, and it was a good example, though, of how this kind of stuff works on the average person who's following that kind of media. So keep it coming. Good, bad, and ugly. We'll take it all.
Yep. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.